open up the mosh pit, open up the mosh pit, open. And everyone wants to go in the. I mean, the mosh pit is cool to see live, but cool to see but it's scary to be actually in the mosh pit. Knowing me, I sometimes get very overwhelmed.
I'm Shakira Alleyne, and I've been involved in the music sector in various ways over the past 10 years. As a young participant attending creative programs, a working musician, and now an associate consultant with Sound Connections. I've always loved music, but I've always hated sound. Receiving a late diagnosis of autism definitely helped me make sense of this contradiction. Since being diagnosed, I've been able to understand myself better, but my journey hasn't been easy, and I've often felt like I'm not reaching my full potential. With more conversations happening around neurodiversity, I've realised that I'm not alone, and that many neurodivergent people face societal barriers that prevent them from excelling, especially where intersectionality is concerned. In this documentary, I'll be speaking to other creators about their experiences, examples of best practice, and what can be done to make music education and the industry more accessible.
Banji on your radar. A multi-talented individual, a rapper and a producer. And this is his new freestyle. He wrote, produced, recorded, mixed and mastered it in 40 minutes. One of those tracks that just fell out of him. Speaking his truth on this one and showing off his punchlines and his lyricism. It's called Lifestyle.
This is my lifestyle. This is my lifestyle. That will go around. This is my lifestyle. This is my lifestyle. That will go. Yeah.
My mom told me recently that I used to try and climb out windows as a kid. So yeah, it was a bit wild, and it also affected my behavior, especially in school, primary school, because I used to sometimes I used to jump on tables or run around the classroom or say some things that are very out of context or out of the blue. But then music really just changed everything for me, because when I was it actually helped for me with my learning in general, because I was reciting the lyrics and I remember certain beats. So I think over time, I think I became more invested in it. Then I decided to study music in university. And during university, I was learning how to make beats, and I really got good at it. I started making some traction online. Then only like a year ago, I decided I always wanted to rap as well. So I transitioned to like a Kanye West type of artist, so he does both. So and it's been upwards from there. Making music really does help me, because I think it allows me to express myself and just in a way get out of my own head, and or whatever thoughts I have in my mind, I just put it into music. And so it's very cathartic for me. Also, it was actually good for my personal growth and development, because I think I was able to learn more about myself, how I make my beats and how I rap, and explain more of the things I'm going through music than actual conversation. But likewise, the music did actually help me with in terms of engaging in conversation, because I used to struggle with trying to speak to people, and my eyes I avoid eye contact. I do sometimes time for time, but then I feel like I've gone better at keeping eye contact and learn how to remain calm, and my anxiety has decreased. Sometimes my anxiety spikes up, but then I think through music I've learned how to control it.
Do you ever write about being autistic?
Um, Not really. I mean, I'm planning to in the future. Go. I've given some hints. I'm not direct about autism, but more like what I've been through.
Hmm.
Obviously, that's because of autism, but I just gave for me, I'm in the process of just getting little hints there and there. So when in the future, when I drop like a big album, I think I'll address it more. Being a neurodivergent, it's like not that much support, and I feel like there's not really that much guidance and advice. I think when I was in university, even though they did help me in some bits, at the same time it didn't really like guide me, but they did give me some hints of where to look at. So obviously when I graduated from my masters, um, I was in like a weird place because obviously when you graduate from like university, you're like, oh wow, what now? Even though I was studying music, because I chose it because I was good at it, I was not really sure what direction I really wanted to go, what path. Well, if even doing music for me is really for me, but I think it was like only I think when I transitioned to an artist, when I started, that's when I realized, oh, it just naturally blended. Everything just fell into place. And I felt like I was sad that, oh, maybe I feel like this is the right path for me. Because anytime I do music, it just like, it helped me, it helped me be free. And I feel like when you're free and when you allowed to be your authentic true self, I feel like I think that's what it's life's all about. We neurodivergent could still do anything. And I think I've always wanted to be the person that helps helps other people who are in a similar situation as me because of due to what I've been through. So I was thinking my experience can help them. So that's the reason why I'm more comfortable now sharing it.
Earlier this year, I produced and hosted a panel on neurodiversity, and Banji was one of the speakers.
I found speaker on the panel a really life-changing experience because I've never done anything like that before. And I remember before like commenting, I was a bit nervous of how is it gonna turn out or how it was gonna how it's gonna be basically. But then once I realized what the panel's about neurodivergent, that's when I felt like, oh, I don't have to like be scared. Just like I feel like I realized the panel's a way just basically reintroducing myself to new people. So once I use that mindset, that's when everything just like moves swiftly. I feel like me using my experiences or not being accepted can help create a future for people that are accepted. I'm doing an internship via SoundCloud as an assistant producer at Wired for Music. I wasn't sure I was gonna if I wanted to do the interview because I was thinking maybe the role's not for me. But I said, you know what, let's just give it a go. So I did the interview. Then like 2 days later, the team messaged saying, "Oh, I got the role." I was like, "Oh," and they gave me an option if I wanted to do the role or not. I was deciding maybe if I should do it, but then I said so. I was given this role for a reason, and there's a good opportunity to help develop my music career, and also might gain some insights and then develop more skills like maybe some video editing skills and maybe some event producer skills. So which I can apply for when I do about future projects. So you know this will be a good experience. So we get paid, good experience, and so I was like, you know what, I feel like this will be a good step in my development. So I went for it, now I'm doing it now. I'm in my second month. The second month now. Yeah, second month. Yeah.
And when you started, did you have any anxiety around um, your neurodivergence and working with the team, or did you?
Definitely, I definitely did because um it seemed when I was first like introducing like the things I need to do and showing all the things like the website and the team meetings and the scheduling post on the Instagram, watch his Instagram. I was like, oh my god, this is too much. I cannot do this. But then I remember, wait, I, they hit the knot. I mean, the interview is more to help me, not like, oh, trying to get a. I think the interview is more to help support me in my development, and 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 they really literally that again to me. So, oh, don't need to stress about. We're actually here to help. This is just to support you. This interview is support you and your progress in the music industry, and they said they would, and also they're willing to help anything I'm stuck with, or anything I'm short. Just I need to let them know, not to keep it myself.
What's next for you? What do you hope for yourself for the future of music?
Oh, for music, I think just progressing my skills in terms of like my music production and my rapping and my artistry, and now and also the types of project I'm doing. Cause I think I dream of doing concept albums that features like more storyline and more fiction make type music. Well, it's more like music, but then there's like a storyline, like skits and vlogs in between. And yeah, I think those are the type of things. Cause I've always like as a young kid, I've always been like an imaginative person, and so I feel like music is a great way of bringing those to into life. It's like I'm bringing like some movie, like cinema, theater into music. So I think that's the type of thing I'm doing.
You're not actually seeing me for who I am
This.
because, like, I'm so closed off.
Yes, exactly. Because you're not in a space that is like holding space for you to be your full and creative self and reach your potential. And so as a result, you end up masking, and people think that masked version of you is you. And so they create a perception of you that isn't you, but you're just in yourself, you're just in the inner being like, no, I can do more. I am more than this. As a kid, I was like, I feel like something is off, but I don't know what it is. And no one's going to track it because no one talks about neurodiversity or ADHD or dyslexia in my culture anyway.
I think I always knew I wasn't neurotypical, but I think I knew I had ADHD from like looking back with hindsight, but I was late diagnosed, as a lot of people assigned female are. And so I only got formally diagnosed like 2 years ago. So I think my journey with like creativity and music has been more of a struggle than anything else, because I didn't have something to put my finger on to be able to manage it. And there's a whole thing of in the media at the moment of like late diagnosis in women with ADHD. It was only studied within men up until about 3 years ago. So it all kind of makes sense, and it was a real penny drop moment.
If you're middle ground, just coping, you haven't got the support. But if you break down, crash, like in the hospital, out, oh, would you like a mentor? Oh, would you like support with this? Why have you got to wait until someone's completely burnt out, crashed, on meds before you start offering them the support? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. And then there are a lot of people that will never get to that point. They'll always just be hovering, then give up their dreams and go and do something that they hate.
The social model of disability is what actually gives everything works to. So it's about the idea that it's not the person that is disabled, it's society disabling the person. And as soon as I started learning about that in hand with my diagnosis, I was like, in a way, I was like angry and frustrated because I'm like, why can't I just be me? But also on the flip side, that comes into the ADHD narrative of like being too much and fulfilling the stereotype. So I think I'm finding a point now where, and I'll delve into it way more later, but like, I'm starting to realise that, yeah, we can't just fully unmask. There are still requirements there, but how do I fit in that neurotypical world whilst being authentic?
I am a program hopper. I hop from one program to the next. And a lot of the time, I don't finish the stuff I'm supposed to be doing on that program. Apart from this one, live music traineeship. What a great time. Yeah, because I find again, because I've not necessarily been let down by organizations who run these programs. It's just, again, it's that articulation barrier of what I need and the support I need. and also the misarticulation of like what I want to achieve. Because I find that, especially with the ideas I want to create, whether it be theatre or like poetry or like composing, for example, like I find that by me explaining it, I do a disservice to myself. So I'm like, why not just show you what I'm trying to achieve rather than do like a verbal vomit of what I want to achieve? And you interrogate that verbal vomit, knowing that I am dyslexic. So if I say if the things that come out my mouth don't make sense, it's because I'm still trying to like externally think about what I want to convey to you. Yeah, so I do often tend to work backwards to be like, okay, like this is what I made, and then let's go back, use that as a way to be like, okay, this is what I was trying to achieve. But I also think that sort of lack of trust, I think that comes from a place of like lack of trust, because doing like this traineeship with like you and like Liz and the Sound Connections team, like I'm like, oh, if people actually took the time to listen to what I was trying to say rather than project the result of what I was trying to achieve, then I wouldn't feel so anxious and put so much pressure in trying to overwork to achieve this end perfectionist goal to show them, oh look, here's a fully formed poem, so I don't have to explain it to you. Like, if I had that conversation in the beginning where it's like, this is me, I'm going to verbal to you. This may not necessarily be the thing that I want to achieve, but like, this isn't the necessary thing I want to achieve, but this is the idea that I have, and like, it will grow. This is not the final result. If there was that flexibility, I wouldn't have to put so much pressure on myself to be like, I am a perfect human functioning in the world with a fully formed idea. Because we're not all like that. But again, it's just that pressure, I think.
Yeah. It gets exhausting, and then it's like you end up not, again, reaching your potential and getting the ideas that you want, like having the opportunity to like put out stuff. Yeah, definitely.
And the fear of like failure as well. Like, it feels like there isn't an opportunity to fail. And I feel like that's where the growth happens. But because it feels like there's so much pressure when you're like, I don't know, doing a creative opportunity on these programs where you're supposed to be developing because you're young. But you're also like, there's an organisation attached to this, and this feels like everything, and I am one of however many people who are on this program, so therefore I must be the best. Yeah, it gets very overwhelming, and then you go into a thought spiral, and you shouldn't have to go into a thought spiral, because this is a place where you're supposed to grow.
It's hard to work with other people who aren't aware of neurodivergence existing, because as someone who overthinks everything down to like timings, what bus I'm going to get, what route I'm going to get, what's the visual route to that place. If I turn up somewhere and someone's like, I don't get why you're feeling anxious about it, that's just like a hard no. Again, fitting in, just feeling like I found my place, not having access to quiet spaces, not having access requirements met. And I think having the offer of like a conversation around access requirements, because I don't know about you, but like for me being neurodivergent, I need to almost have a list of them, but they're ever changing. And like, it depends on the space that I'm going into. But that's me taking that as like, well, I should know my access requirements. It's like maybe where I'm going should ask, and we could have a conversation and we could work that out together, and that would be more inclusive. Also, not feeling comfortable to share my diagnosis due to stigma or worry. Like, it's very clear to me when people perceive me that I'm like, it's obvious I've got ADHD, but I don't feel like I should always have to give my diagnosis to be able to be heard. And also, that was an interesting thing that I thought of, no access to alternate formats. So saying about music exams, like I did classical music, and I went to a conference recently, the Access to Music conference, which I will say, I'll give it a little plug, because it was the first Access to Music conference ever, like the first one that's ever happened that is accessibility and the music industry in the UK. So that happened a couple of weeks ago. And we were talking about kind of alternate formats for like classical exams. Why are we not doing things like having a video submission? Why are we not doing things like, if you're not good at the theory, can you sight read instead? So having options rather than it being like, here's the theory, here's the piece, now you have to do this exercise, because it's not one size fits all. So I think something that I really struggled with was not having access to a lot of different areas, but also just, overall the thought being there of like, how can we make this creative and inclusive?
When you were first diagnosed, what was that journey for you like in terms of like knowing what you need?
Oh, I still don't know. I'm like 2 years, maybe 3 years into diagnosis, and I'm still working it out, because like, so even things like I'm working at Glastonbury Festival this year, and I wouldn't normally have a personal assistant, and this year I'm going to, which it's also like swallowing my inner ableism and having to unpack that, because it's like, I don't see a task like, can you hold my walking stick whilst I go in my bag, as a need for a personal assistant. But if you put that in the scope of a festival with thousands of people, with me getting overwhelmed, overstimulated, it makes sense. So I feel like some of it is like trial and error, but like, even now I think I've masked so much with my access requirements, even down to like going out for a cigarette. I thought that was because I wanted to smoke. It's not, it's because I needed some time to go outside. Or like, I don't know, like being able to ask questions around, did I say something wrong? Was I being too much? Like having that open conversation. But again, that's me putting it on me, saying, was I too much? It's like, why are we the problem? Why? And I get it, there's that internalized like narrative, and it is how society views us. But yeah, I think I'm still very much working out what my requirements are. But again, like I said earlier, I think if someone sat down with me and said, what do you need for this event? And we had a conversation about it, I'd be able to do it. But if it is me thinking about a hypothetical event I'm going to, I've never been to that space before, how am I supposed to know what I need? I can know like the bare minimum of like a space to break out to, know where the toilets are, know when the break times are. But outside of that, there isn't really much I can do without knowing what that space is, who's going to be there, what support's going to be there. So I think, yeah, it would be helpful to have like honesty around and just like transparency around like what is there, what are the offers. And I think with reasonable adjustments as well, it always comes back to like what is reasonable. And I've always said this, like even a list of examples of reasonable adjustments would be helpful. It doesn't matter if I don't take them, but like having examples there would be helpful.
If you can't get to the point where you can even get an interview, because let's face it, right? That's one of the challenges. One of the big barriers is even filling out the application form. You know, like I can do things for other people really. Like I'm quite good at that side of stuff. Like my sister's severe dyslexia, so she's amazingly creative, talented. I just love her, and she's a brilliant woman. But she can't, you know, she goes for jobs and get that much, you know, below her. Not because it's below her, but because she's actually, the potential is much greater. And it's not living up to your potential that creates like one of the biggest heartaches in a lot of people, and actual like illness as well, you know. So I do the application part. I fill out the application part, you know. But there are some people who find it hard to read and write. What questions are you asking? Read the person's spec and answer in each of the things. So, you know, that's the part where I would give, I'm a really good team player. What's the example? Prove it. Show me. Then say, show me. Say, can you give me an example? Say what you want in the application form. Allow people to give a video. To say, hey, this is me, this is them. I really want to go for this job. I really feel as if I feel really passionate about it. Feel me, you know. So I can even get to the shortlist part of the pace. What are you, when you're going for jobs, whether it's music industry, film industry, whatever, it's an energy thing, it's a feeling thing, right? And so if you can get someone in the space and you think, oh, I like this person, oh, I hear what they're saying, oh, I feel them, yeah, let's get them in for an interview. And you know what? Let's give them the questions in advance. They know what we're going to ask. And you know what? We're going to give really clear directions about how to get there, not some back end of whatever and just Google Maps is taking you 7 other directions. So there are certain things that you can be done to make it easier. First of all, the finding the job, where are they? Having a really cool, it'd be fantastic if we just had, not Indeed, Read or whatever, bless them, they're great sites, but where there was a place where the creative jobs were put together in a really easy format. So many creative people might lack executive functioning skills, which is the planning and the organisation. Do you know what I mean? They're being able to follow through on a task, you know, those kinds of things. They might not fully understand the question. In the application form, when you're asking a question, give us a picture, give us an example. Allow the application to be someone on a video saying, this is the application form, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to talk you through it right now. Making that process easier, you know, then you're giving everybody a better shot. So many processes that need to change to support people, from the way in which you apply for funding, apply for jobs, and then you even get to those stages. You get the funding in to do it, and you get the money, you get the funding in, but then you've got the next challenge of like building a team. Why can we not have a system set up where there's support to help build a team? We need to support each other, and we're neurodiverse people supporting each other, but we always feel like we're crabs along, going on side, and I want to go forward. I've got so much to offer, so much to give, so much passion, energy, drive, creative talent and ability.
Help me understand what I need, because sometimes I don't know what I need. I go on a form and it's like, oh, so you've taken that you're neurodivergent. What do you want? I said, beyond the yellow piece of paper, I don't know, like, what do you have? Having like a list of things that you can offer, and if the thing that I want isn't on that like list, then let's work together to create a way to facilitate that, I think. And just having the space to be like open and have conversations at any point, I think is really important. But I also, I think it just starts with a conversation, really.
You don't need to know someone's diagnosis to put reasonable adjustments in place, or even just have a conversation around access needs. Like, I think people are waiting to go, oh yeah, I have autism, I have ADHD, I have OCD. It's like, let's just get rid of that word. What do you need from this space? What do you need from being here? Again, making it standard practice to ask for people's access requirements rather than waiting for the person with those requirements to raise them. It shouldn't come out of reactiveness. It shouldn't come out of, I'm struggling, I now need to disclose this. It should be preemptive and proactive rather than reactive. Realising that not everybody can work a 9-to-5 lifestyle, or on the flip side, as a musician or creative, not everyone can do gigging till late hours or rehearsing like 9 till midnight. Like, I think it's about having a middle ground and again a dialogue around that, because a lot of people that are neurodivergent, have disabilities, have intersectional traits, are not necessarily going to be able to do routines and be able to plan in advance for that. But on the flip side, changes to routine last minute aren't helpful either. So I think the way to mitigate any of these things in here is just ask. And actually on that note, we've got a really big piece of work that the team did at Attitudes Everything called the Just Ask campaign, and it's aimed at venues and festivals asking. And it's that simple. More access to sensory kits. They seem to be a bit of a hype at the moment, where people are like, oh yeah, we're being inclusive, we've got a bag of goodies. But like, I take my fidget toy everywhere, I have multiple, and I have like my loop earplugs and things like that. So I've done that, and I realise that's privileged to be able to have access to those things. Some people can't afford to get ear defenders and get kitted out with it. So I think, again, if you want to be truly inclusive, having the requirements and also having that as an offering, even if people haven't asked for it, because being in that environment can be very different to what you think it's going to be, and people might not factor that in. I love the term relaxed as regards to people are like, it's a relaxed meeting. I'm like, great, I can do what I need to do. Immediately I feel like released in that. Even down to like going to the toilet, like, or I don't need to go to the toilet, I'm just going to go for a wander, or like standing up in a meeting. But I think there's still stuff that needs to be done around the attitudes, because we can say, yeah, you can do what you want to make yourself comfortable, but then people still look up and still kind of make you feel othered. So I think the attitudes around that need to change.
The master's greatest teacher is his student. And so you'll always learn from the people that you think you're teaching. Actually, they're teaching you somehow. And if you adopt that, whether you're a school teacher, whether you're running community centres, whether you're at the Roundhouse working with people, be ready to learn something, and listen. Really important, listen. So, having it so that you've got feedback. How did you find today? Or, if you don't want people to disclose once you've had a session, just be aware. If you notice someone's a bit shy or feeling a bit awkward, how can you not notice that? You have to care. Do you know what I mean? Or like go and do a different job. You're working with people, sensitive group of people.
Try and reach out to many people neurodivergent as they can and get feedback from them. And this is so they can have an idea of what they can do next time to apply for whatever future programs they have planning. Because I feel like often that the neurodivergent people, especially the new people in neurodivergent, often feel isolated, especially in the creative industry, and I feel like having supporting people, and when people who are neurodivergent feel like they're supported and feel like safe and feel that secure and feel that they can do anything. I feel like that will give them more confidence to like fully come out of themselves. Because I feel like often in the world, like they'll like especially myself, we often feel like we're stuck in a bubble, and yeah, I feel like the more I feel getting general feedback from people who are neurodivergent and opening more spaces for like especially for the people who are neurodivergent to have that tap so they can feel like relaxed and not feel like they have to be a certain way to like make it.
But you shouldn't have to be like a major talent before you're looked after, especially if you're in a program that's developing you.
The best programs I've been on have always approached people with a form of neurodivergence with like empathy and time and care.
I thought that I didn't get the job, I'll put it straight, because I'm so used to, and I applied for loads of jobs before this one, and I applied to so many places and it was always a no feedback, or fill in this form, and then I'd get stressed by the form so I wouldn't finish the application. So with Attitude is Everything, it was a case of, yeah, there was forms, but at every point there was like alternate formats. If you need support with it, let our administrator know. She'll be able to do a call or be able to talk you through the different steps. Even down to things like documentation once I'd got the role, like this is what we need, but we can do it in this way. You can bring it into the office, you can send us an email, like having those different formats. But also the actual like interview bit, it was everything that was pre-planned was given to me in advance. It wasn't that I had to ask for it either. This is what I loved. Because a lot of places it's like a reasonable adjustment can be given the questions in advance, but not everyone gets those questions. I just think everyone should have interview questions in advance.
Most of the sound connection staff already know me as well, so that's what made me more relaxed. So I decided to like take things slowly, and I think now I'm really very used to the role. It's not just programmed in my subconscious. Like I don't need to like think about what I need to do. Obviously, I still get help, etc. But I don't need. I feel I don't really need to stress about it now because I think they all know about my autism. And they know how I often get overwhelmed and my mind. How often I can get overstimulated, and so it's very nice. I'm very grateful that they understood and they really have really taught me and do the best I can.
It's so easy to like get into conversation and be like, okay, I'm like stressing out over this email I have to send. Like, what do I do? What do I say? Let's all come back. Say this, this, and this. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's just that reassurance, which has been so lovely. And just again, like, just seeing us where we're at. Because I think it can be like intimidating for some people to be like, oh no, we've got a neurodivergent person on our team. What do we do? And then it's easy to see all like the symptoms, whatever, rather than just the person you're speaking to.
It was a real shock as a neurodivergent person to come across somewhere that actually practices what they preach. Like, I'm still pinching myself to this day that I'm like, I get to do this.
Universal Music, absolutely brilliant. They've actually got a booklet called Creative Differences, and they had little videos which they've taken down now, which is a shame because I really enjoyed showing them to people when I was working with them, because you can tell that was done by people who were neurodiverse, because even the little videos that they did, even the way in which they described the whole thing was like so palatable, it made sense, didn't have to really sweat to work it all out, you know, you'd have to read between the lines, or yeah, and they were brilliant. And in the interview process, they somebody from the Autistic Society helped prepare me for the interview. They offered to be a part of the interview process. They actually had written to the Autistic Society and said, we're looking for autistic individuals to come and join our workforce. That's what it needs as well. Those creative industries need to reach out to forums, groups, where there's already creatives who are neurodiverse a part of it. Reach out to them because they're there. And say, look, this is how we're interviewing. You can send us a video. This is how we do it. These are the questions in advance. It's going to last this long. This is a picture of all the people that are going to be there, so that when you switch on the camera, you've got the familiar face. You've already read the bio. All this kind of stuff really makes a massive difference to someone's experience about it. And they had quite chatty in the beginning to get you relaxed, and then they went in with the questions, and it was great. It was a really enjoyable interview process.
During the panel, I asked how we can amplify the strengths and unique perspectives that neurodivergent people bring to the sector.
More spaces like this, and you bringing more people to things like this as well, and telling people that this is actually really important for everybody, not just people who are neurodivergent. Like, our work, the way we create, the way we show up in the world is important for everybody.
I don't want to make a generalisation here, but I think a lot of the neurodivergent community have felt that they've been dulled, their sparkle has been dulled because they don't fit in. And I know that I feel that way sometimes. And I think the level of pride and neurodivergent joy can sometimes be squashed by the society that we live in. So I think, yeah, by harnessing and making the industry more inclusive, the only thing that can come out of it is good, and more opportunities. Like, even the fact that our brains work in a different way, we can have, there's some days where I suggest an idea to someone and they go, how the hell did you think of that? And to me, it's the simplest thing in the world. But to them, it's like, I would never have thought of that. So I think there's a real unique opportunity there to work with people on an equitable case-by-case basis, and you will get so many different ideas creatively, business-wise, like everything, as to how to get better out of people's well-being as well. I think they're intrinsically linked.
Being transparent regarding like our neurodiverse or neurodivergent identities is really important, because it allows for a space of vulnerability and conversations like this to happen, so that we feel like empowered in our experiences, whether they be good or bad. So having the space for that is really important.
Awareness, education, and then communication all the time. And communicating as a team, communicating with the people who you're working with, and encouraging communication, cooperation, and tolerance within the group unity.
If you can see someone's needs as not being met and you are an ally to the disabled community, you need to call it out, you need to advocate for that person, as long as they're comfortable for that, because obviously you don't want to suddenly go in and be like, oh my god, I saw this happen, and they don't actually want that. So I think it's about communication around allyship, but like not just, sharing autism awareness days and then doing nothing for the rest of the year, but like ensuring that you're checking in with your friends around you that are neurodivergent. I think listening, realising that they have a different perspective, and just it's the same with, not completely the same, but it's similar with any other intersectionality, like making space and holding space, I think is really important.
You know how I feel about neurodiversity is a superpower. Stop. I think that the amplification of people thinking differently, paired with like a level of exceptionalism where we don't see neurodivergent people as human people, is a dangerous thing, a dangerous territory to enter, because it means that we don't have flaws, and we do have flaws, and we're still learning. I think, yeah. So I think vulnerability, being open, being transparent about identity is really important. And by doing that, it means there's more celebration, like we said, but there's also more accountability to the organisations or institutions or like music companies or record labels or like hubs, whatever, in terms of giving us support as well. Because if you're celebrating us and you're celebrating our skills, like, we all love talking about Loyal Kana and its impact, but how is that translating, like, outside of what he's doing? How is that being reflected in the music industry and how we treat neurodivergent people, whether they are music execs, A&Rs, managers, whatever, or aspiring music execs, A&Rs, whatever, or musicians, whatever. You know what I mean? Celebration must translate into action and accountability.
Educating yourself around disability and neurodiversity can be really helpful, not just for the people that you're around, but also for your own journey. You never know if you're actually in a situation where you're undiagnosed or you haven't started realising this. And I think on the flip side of that, there's a tendency for people to be like, oh, well, we're all a little bit ADHD or all a little bit OCD or whatever turn of phrase you want to use. I think rather than saying things like that out loud, note it and go, do you know what? I can see that there's a shared experience there. Like, not everything has to be vocalised with that. So I think there's a lot of work to be done if people want to use the term ally. And to be a good ally is something very different to just being an ally. And it's about being proactive.
Do you have any advice for young neurodivergent people trying to access these spaces or work in the industry?
So I think this is going to sound a bit heavy, but I think the biggest thing for me is like knowing your rights, knowing that like you have the right to ask for reasonable adjustments, knowing that the Equality Act exists. I've found in my experience of being disabled and neurodivergent that like as soon as you mention the Equality Act or a piece of legislation, people go, oh no, okay, it's fine, we'll do it. And it shouldn't have to come to that. But I think so many people as consumers, as artists, as anyone that's even walking down the street, they don't know their rights. And I'm not saying that as a community we should all start going, right, we know our rights, that's it, we've got a chip on our shoulder. But I think that the main thing from the Equality Act that I think is really helpful for people that are neurodivergent is that the place that you are going to has a duty of care, and they have a duty under the Equality Act to put those reasonable adjustments in place. If they're not doing that, it's discrimination because you're not having the same access to that space. So although for young people that might sound heavy, I think that it's quite empowering to know that there is something there to kind of fall back on.
Is music really for me? Is spoken word poetry really for me? Is theatre really for me? Doing that stuff, coming back on top and be like, yes, it is for me. I am affirmed in this space, and I am affirmed, like, and my skills are valued, and I know exactly what I want to achieve, that sort of thing. Going into those spaces, knowing that you've done so much, it means that you're not at an imbalance. You're equal because you deserve to be there because of who you are.
I search for organizations that allow people that are mainly focused on people that are neurodivergent, because I feel like once the new people who are neurodivergent don't feel alone and feel like they can relate to other people, and obviously that can spread across the music industry.
Find people who understand and accept you for who you are. I think as a baseline and a foundation, it makes it easier to go into the world that isn't always as kind, to be able to go home to that environment. And I don't mean home as in like where you were based, I mean the people that you call home, because that can be two very different things as well.
There's power in your network. There's so much power. The amount of conversations I've had with fellow neurodivergent people, Shakira especially on this programme, like, again, just affirms like, you'll need to be here and to create and know that like, whatever you do create will come from a space of like, knowledge and like understanding and empathy, and that's what we need in creative industries.
If I can give one bit of advice for big film company, there's a camera, I'm going to get straight down the barrel. Don't ask permission, you don't have to wait, okay? There's a whole world out there. I waited for years and years to think I needed someone to tell me it was okay to do something. If you feel in your heart and you're healthy and comfortable and safe to do that, go and do it. Go and start doing it. You probably know better more than the people you're about to engage with. That would be my original piece of advice. Go do it.
My hopes are people can be themselves without feeling like they have to like censor who they are and what they want to achieve in the environments they work in or the dreams they want to pursue.
Not everyone will agree with me saying this term and they won't necessarily identify as disabled, but I believe that neurodiversity can be truly disabling. And I think it's really important to remember that, because it's not just a trend, it's not just a fad. Like, this is people's lives that they are struggling when their needs aren't being met, and that's not okay. So I think, yeah, for the industry to realise that it's not just a trend, it's not just hip and cool to be inclusive. Like, these are individual people that when access needs aren't met, that causes actual trauma. And I think I try and stress that everywhere I go, if I speak on panels, if I speak one-on-one with people, like, I have literal trauma from my needs not being met because I didn't know how to ask, or I didn't know what I needed to ask for. So I think realising that it is disabling, whether you class it as a disability independently, that is completely up to you. But for me, like, it is part of one of my disabilities, and I think that there needs to be a stress around it being that way, and it's not just something fun that we get cool little toys and we get to be a kid again. Like, some days I literally can't leave the house because it is that disabling, or I can't get tasks done, or my anxiety is so high. So yeah, I think realising the gravitas. And also another hope is that there's more work around artist accessibility. We are trying really hard at Attitude is Everything to shift things so that we're in more of an equilibrium of anyone that's coming into the music industry. And it's not just audiences, because I know that a lot of venues, theatres, festivals, they will have a lot of audience information for accessibility. But what about the artists? What about when you go to a venue or a festival and there's no ramp onto the stage or there's no handrails on that ramp? What about the artists that are neurodiverse that have got to go and do a really big set at a 40,000 capacity festival? Where are they going to go afterwards to go and let off some steam, like to go and have some sensory time? So I think, to summarise it, I think people realising that neurodiversity can be disabling and it's not just a trend, and that there's more work around artist accessibility.
As a black neurodivergent person who isn't as social or outgoing, sometimes that can often be misread as, oh, she doesn't want to talk to me, oh, she's moody, oh, she's got an attitude. I hope that there can be more conversations regarding the intersectionality of neurodivergent people, and that there can be more empathy and grace extended towards that. Because like I said about this idea of celebration and the amplification of neurodivergent voices, yes, we have weeks for awareness weeks for autism and dyslexia and neurodivergence as a whole, and that's great, but it needs to be more there needs to be more open conversations regarding how that affects different people with respect to their lived experience, whether you're working class or you have a different sexuality, that sort of thing, and how that affects how people move in the world. And I hope there can be a bit more amplification and celebration around that, so more institutions and organisations can be held to account and use their money and put their money where their mouth is when they're talking about ED&I, because we need to stop using stuff as buzzwords.
Also, I know being neurodivergent comes with challenges, but then outside of the challenges, it has some really unique strengths that are really outside the world. And I feel like we're heading towards a future that being out of the box or being different is normal. So I feel like that's what I hope will happen in the future. And I feel like it will.
I've been high, I've been low, both sides still show. Every time the wind blows, my body and mind still flows. In a world where no one really has your back, facts, this is everything, no need to check the stats. But I'm a type of nigga that'll roll for the punches. No matter what challenge, I'll always overcome it. Through the bullshit, I'll never back down, as this is my lifestyle, yeah. This is my lifestyle.